All right, so imagine this. You wake up, nothing's weird yet. You go grab your coffee, and your hand's kind of glowing right where you slammed it in the car door last week. Weird, but whatever. You're half asleep, you figure it's just the light. Then you check your phone, and it's chaos. Every app, everyone posting the exact same thing. Turns out, it's not just your hand. Pain's visible now. All of it. Every headache, every bad knee, every injury someone's been walking around with for years and never mentioned once. You throw on a hoodie and go outside because you have to see this yourself. And yeah, it's real. There's an old guy at the bus stop and both his knees are glowing this dull, tired kind of light like it's been there a decade. Probably has. A woman jogs past you and her ankles flickering, sharp, recent. Maybe from this morning even, and you just stand there for a second doing what everyone's doing now, which is basically reading people like an X-ray. Here's the part that actually gets weird though. Remember that coworker who always says she's fine? Turns out she wasn't. Hasn't been for months, probably. Nobody knew because she never told anyone, and now the entire office knows by lunch whether she wanted them to or not. First few days, honestly, it kind of feels good. You get it now. Somebody's snapping at you. You look, you see the glow. You get it. They're not being a jerk. They're just in pain. No more guessing game. Give it a week though. And that feeling flips completely because pain used to be yours. The one thing that was actually private. And now it's just sitting there on your skin for whoever's walking by to see. So let's talk about what actually happens to the world once that sinks in. Because this isn't the kind of thing that stays a curiosity for long. Systems built on people staying quiet start breaking almost immediately. Sports are the first thing to really crack. Every league on the planet has some rule, spoken or not, about playing through pain. Suck it up, walk it off, that whole culture. Except now the ref doesn't need a doctor's note. He just looks at the guy's shoulder and sees exactly how bad it is. Teams can't fake injuries to slow a game down anymore either, because a fake injury doesn't glow. Within a season, half the sports on TV look completely different, because you can't hide who's actually hurt and who's stalling. Then there's the workplace, and this is where it gets genuinely ugly. At first, some companies act like they care, roll out wellness programs, all that. But give it a few months and the real behavior shows up. Managers start quietly avoiding people who glow a lot during hiring. Not officially, obviously. That's illegal almost everywhere. But you can't really prove someone didn't hire you because your back's been lit up for 2 years. Insurance companies move even faster. Premiums start shifting based on visible pain history, and within a year, there's an entire industry built around concealment. Creams, patches, this whole gray market of stuff that claims to dim the glow. Most of it doing basically nothing, some of it doing something, none of it regulated yet because the government's still arguing about what to even call this thing legally. Courtrooms flip almost overnight too. Domestic violence cases that used to come down to he said, she said, now come down to, well, look at her. The bruise doesn't need to be visible under normal light anymore because the pain itself lights up, regardless of skin tone, regardless of how long ago it happened, as long as it's still hurting. Same with workplace injuries. Same with insurance fraud claims. Judges start relying on it so heavily that lawyers spend the first year of this whole thing arguing about whether it should even be admissible as evidence. Some countries say yes almost immediately. Others ban it from courtrooms entirely because they're worried about people being coerced into showing it, which, fair, honestly. Dating changes in a way nobody really saw coming. Turns out a huge number of people were hiding chronic pain from partners for years, sometimes their whole relationship, because they didn't want to seem like a burden. Now, that's just not possible. Some couples say it brought them closer. finally being honest about what they're carrying. Other couples fall apart within weeks because it turns out a lot of relationships were quietly built on one person, not knowing how much the other one was suffering. Divorce lawyers, of all people, end up having a pretty good year. Religion gets weird too, in a way you don't expect. Some churches lean into it hard, treat visible pain as something almost sacred, a shared burden everyone can finally see and pray over together. Other groups treat it like a curse or a punishment, and there's this uncomfortable period where certain communities start treating people with a lot of visible pain, like they did something to deserve it. That part doesn't get talked about enough afterward, but it happens in more places than you'd think. Doctors, to be fair, actually benefit. Diagnosis speeds up dramatically because a doctor doesn't have to take your word for where it hurts or how bad. They can just look. Chronic pain that used to take years and 5 specialists to even get taken seriously gets caught in a single visit. That's the one genuinely good thing to come out of all this, and it's a big one. Early cancer detection goes up. Repetitive strain injuries in factory workers get caught before they become permanent because management can literally see it building over weeks instead of ignoring complaints for years like before. But here's the thing that creeps in slowly, and it's the part that actually matters most. After a couple months, the glow stops being shocking. People stop stopping. You walk past 10 people a day with visible pain and it just becomes scenery. The same way you stop noticing a headline after you've seen 40 sad headlines that week. The compassion spike that happened in the first few weeks, everyone checking on everyone suddenly gentler with strangers, it fades. Not because people are bad, just because that's what humans do with anything constant. It stops registering as urgent. And there's this other group that basically nobody talks about at all in the beginning. People who don't glow. You'd think lucky, no pain, nothing going on. Except some of them have been hurting for so long, so constantly, that their body just stopped flagging it as pain at all. It became the baseline, the default setting. So it doesn't show up, not because it's gone, because it's just always been there, buried under everything else for years. When researchers figure this part out, it's honestly the most unsettling discovery to come out of the whole thing, because it means some suffering was never going to be visible no matter what changed. A year in, city planning starts responding to it too. Hospitals redesign waiting rooms because you can triage by sight now, instead of asking everyone to rate their pain on a scale of 1 to 10 while gritting their teeth and saying it's a 6 when it's clearly an 8. Schools start noticing which kids are glowing regularly, and it opens up this whole conversation about how many kids were quietly dealing with something and nobody ever asked because kids don't usually say it themselves. But you also start seeing the manipulation. People faking injuries for sympathy get caught out fast because it turns out you actually can't fake the glow itself, but you can absolutely exploit real pain for attention online, for money, for sympathy clicks. There's a whole wave of influencers built entirely around showing off chronic conditions, some of it genuine awareness, some of it just content, and it gets hard to tell the difference after a while, which honestly says more about the internet than about the pain itself. By year 2, most people barely think about it anymore. It's just part of how the world looks now, the same way nobody thinks twice about seeing someone on a phone call anymore. Even though 50 years ago that would have looked insane, a person just talking out loud to nobody. The glow becomes wallpaper. The compassion it was supposed to force into existence mostly settles back down to whatever level it was at before, maybe slightly higher, maybe not even that, which is sort of the real answer to the whole thing, if you think about it. Seeing someone's pain was never actually the hard part. People could always ask. They mostly just didn't. So here's the actual question. And it's not the one you'd expect. not what happens if pain becomes visible. It's whether you do anything differently once it did. Would you actually stop and check on the guy glowing on the train? Or just look at your phone, like you always do?